We're live. I'm going to allow you just to have the floor. Go ahead and introduce yourself just to provide a little background of who you are, what you do.
It's my pleasure, Connor. Thank you so much for the invitation and being here together. My name is Mohammed Abu Sharab, and you can always call me Mo. I'm an international lawyer and tax expert. I've lived in 10 plus countries. I've done business in 50 plus countries. And I'm always helping digital nomads and remote workers, entrepreneurs, and investors who would like to build a global lifestyle where actually they can pay as low as zero taxes and hold a multiplied residence and citizenship in different countries.
And can you go into a little bit about what led you down this path, why you went into international tax law? I mean, it sounds very specific, and why you yourself are such a nomad and why you lived and worked in so many countries?
I was born in Africa, specifically Egypt. I've started my business or my journey as an entrepreneur. I was doing communication services and selling equipments between the Middle East, Africa, and Europe and the US. And I was always thinking about the idea, I'm not making any money outside my home country. Why I pay taxes to the local authorities? I get the equipment from the US or this is before at the early stage of the internet age. I get in my equipment from the US or the service from Europe, and then I'm selling it into Africa and the Middle East. I'm actually getting paid into Dubai or UK or Cyprus or Malta. So why I have to pay money back to where I actually living? I'm not benefiting or getting any benefits outside from the country I'm living in. And then I get into the offshore world. I start discovering it. It was very naive. There's all the information that you have, especially online, with just a couple of service providers. Some of them are still alive now, but the concept about going offshore or moving into a Caribbean island or having your money and paying no tax is the idea of 007, James Bond, where you have a stash of cash, you get into luxurious private jet, you get into a private island, you go into the bank, you get the money there, and you pay no tax. That's the idea everyone have about being an offshore or being. That's the early stage, and then things started development. The internet getting more into development, and there's more service provider that is doing. I was doing a lot of research that almost 20 years ago, and I starting because I was based in Africa. I start getting information about Cyprus, Malta. That was one of the two hotspots that available if you would like to mostly have zero taxes or as low as taxes as possible. And then I get into Hong Kong, Singapore, and Mauritius. And I decided to base my business into Mauritius. Mauritius it's not very well famous as you can say tax jurisdictions or zero tax country. It's not famous. It's not as famous as Cayman Island or Delaware or Texas, but it have a unique perspective, especially in the Middle East and Africa. That actually is the most perspective country that you'll be able to do business. Everything is done there mostly in a day or two. They speak English. It's very affordable compared to other offshore jurisdictions. And then I've set up my business there. I get a residency there. I move all the money through my Mauritius company. I pay it's not 0% tax, but almost nil taxes. And then that was myself. That was my businesses. And then I get into the idea that people start asking me, I would like to do yourself. Why you choose Mauritius? Dubai was taking it was at this stage, there was no many, you can say, Western company that's investing or moving into Dubai. It was mainly focusing in the Middle East and Africa. And then the idea that Dubai is starting as a region or a global hub for attracting entrepreneurs and investors who would like to pay zero taxes. So I get into Dubai and then get to other jurisdictions. I moved into the UK almost 15 years ago. I was hopping between the UK and other jurisdictions to pay as low as tax as possible. And then I converted total my business. I have a law degree when I started, but I actually was not practicing law. So I converted my law degree to be a UK one, and I have an office in central London in 2014. I was practicing law in immigration and tax from 2014 to 2020 when the lockdown happened. I still remember the day. And I was doing everything in my law practice as a startup. I was collecting money online. I was doing online virtual meetings. I was doing online signatures. And this is what beyond the norm. Even I would get, I mean, people who, especially in the legal business in London, in the UK, they have to do everything by the book, the traditional way. You have to do face-to-face meetings. You have to collect the payment online, everything offline. Everything have to be done on a manual base. But I was doing everything as we have a lockdown. So when the lockdown happened, I say, yeah, that's my opportunity. Let's shut down the office. Even I shut it in March 2020, before the hype and before everything. We don't need the office anymore. I moved out of London, and then I start gradually moving 100% to be 100% remotely. And then the number of people who would actually going remotely or going off, you can say, started to think about the idea of being digital nomads is increasing rapidly. I mean, I mean, the you can say it was like once the lockdown happened, the first thing happened to people. I'm based in London. Why I not move to Manchester? Or I'm based in New York. Why I not move to New Jersey or Texas or any local state? I pay less taxes and I can and still do the business remotely or do my job remotely. I get the same salary. So that's the first thing happened to mostly people. I can move to low cost city nearby, and I'm still doing everything I do from the high cost city. In the UK, it was London to Manchester or other low cost places. From the US, it was California to Nevada or the other states around them, or from the New York to New Jersey, Texas, Florida. That's how things start. And then, okay, why not move to an island or a tropical place? And I think in May 2020, Barbados was the first country to come up with a digital nomad visa. It was called, even it was not called the digital nomad visa, it's called Barbados Welcome Stamp. That allow anyone who would go through a process and they would like to work remotely in Barbados, an island, to live there for 1 to 2 years, but they have to continue working for the home company that they already working in. It was a very simple application. You fill the application online, you get it, you get the stamp, you get into the country. So that was the first thing that happened in the world, that actually you can go and work remotely officially from other country. And then start rolling. People asking now, okay, I'm British, I'm based in the UK, I would like to move to Thailand or Bali, or actually out there, why still paying taxes to the UK? I'm American or Canadian, and I have an online business that generate business actually online. I'm not benefiting anything from the US or the UK or Canada. Why still paying taxes to them? So I find myself getting into a lot of interviews, a lot of you can say seminars online, content creation about the idea. It's relatively new idea, but actually I've been doing this myself for 20 years, and I find that I would try to position myself as the offshore king, or I call myself a global expat. I'm not actually a digital nomad, because digital nomad, they have a mentality about they are trying to stay in a place as short as possible to get as most as benefits and then move to other place. No, I have a different perspective. I have different bases all around the world. I have a base in Miami, in London, actually in the UK, and in Cyprus and Dubai. And I travel between the bases as needed, whatever it's a weather thing, it's a lifestyle, it's a business, or I can use each of the bases to travel to other location. For example, if I'm traveling from Miami, I can access to the Caribbean islands or Latin America. If I'm traveling from London, I access all Europe. If I'm traveling from Dubai, I access the Middle East. If I'm traveling from Cyprus, I access mostly the southern countries in Europe. So I use the basis as a point of you can say entry into an ecosystem. For Cyprus, I enter the EU. For Dubai, I enter the Middle East. For the US, for the Miami, I enter all the US ecosystem. And all US, I consider US, it's US, Canada, Latin America, and Mexico, including the Caribbean. It's one banking system. It's mostly one regulation. You can do everything from the same. So that's why I created the different bases. I travel between the bases. I'm not telling anyone to do like myself. It's a very complicated process. It's take a lot of money and effort, but at least you got the idea. You just need a base. You can start with as simple as one base, and you can keep it and you add more bases, or you can move between bases and build. You can say I call it business on the ground. You don't have to be 100% remotely or offshore, but try to benefit because the laws keep changing from place to place. And as long as your business is actually online, you are not based anywhere, you can benefit from different rules and regulations all around the world.
So, and can we back up because I think you mentioned it right there, as you said that it's good for your business, but it's very complicated and it's taking you a lot of money and time and effort to set up these different bases. So, can you go back and I'm just curious. I mean, maybe it's obvious, very obvious to you, back to when you were growing up in Egypt. Why not just stay in your home country and try and operate a remote business from that home country as opposed to being this global person that has to deal with all these different governments and entities and complex business structures? Did that ever cross your mind? Or maybe you can kind of go back to when you decided to say, okay, I need to get out of Egypt. But why would you not stay in Egypt? Just curious.
Actually, it's not about leaving the place. It's I mean, in the early 20s, 20 years ago, when you try to do an international business, it was extremely hard. If you're trying to move money between the Middle East and Africa and Europe, they ask a lot of questions. They need a lot of paperwork, and the amount of money and efforts and admin administration to do an international business as my scale, it was a very frustrated. So what I've done is a very simple. I've tried to set up. I say I'm receiving money from my clients. This money doesn't have to come to Egypt. It doesn't have to come to my home country. I mean, you don't have to think of Egypt as an example. It could be the U.S., Canada, Europe, whatever your home country. Just replace Egypt with your home country and say why I still getting money into my home country where actually I don't have suppliers in my own country. I'm not benefiting anything from the country. I have to put the money there and then put it and then transfer it to another country and then to buy my suppliers and service provider. So why I don't put the money into an international, easy, low tax jurisdiction or country where I can actually move the money back and forth and keep my profit in this country tax free. That's the first thing that come to my mind. The second thing is regulation. To operate a technology business as early as 20 years ago, where you actually sell, and it was even before, I mean, Amazon was still an idea. It's very, I mean, if you try to go to the bank and explain them, I'm getting my equipments from the US and selling into it have to go through Europe, and from Europe it have to go to Middle East and Africa. Say, what? Why are you doing this? That's nonsense. I mean, the idea itself was beyond the understanding of normal administrations and people that actually was doing business. I mean, most of the business was importing, exporting, selling services, lawyers, doctors. There was no that huge of multi cross-border transaction that we have seen now. I mean, the world was less international. I mean, even when I was trying to travel or do business in other countries, it was very challenging getting visas and applying for residency and trying to explain. But when the first time I go to Mauritius or Cyprus, I'll tell them this is my business. I move equipment, I get services from X and Y. And say that's normal. That's what we do. We are international business unit. I mean, the bank unit. I still remember the first time I went to Cyprus, 2004. I mean, the international operation business in the bank was called international business unit. So when you tell them I do business internationally, I move money between countries, they got it. It was very easy. They no question asked. And on top of this, you can get residency, you can get low tax. I mean, the kind of problems I faced in this day was totally different from now. Now it's you are living in mostly hybrid you can say multi international correspondent business, and what kind of regulations and rules you are facing is totally different. Now the world is trying to move into from hyper international to semi international because of the conflicts and problems that are happening. And on top of this, there is people have we can have problems. I mean, some you can face about more taxes, more regulation, more restricted. I mean, if you're based I have a lot of clients coming from Russia. I was doing business with them before the Ukraine conflict, and It's happened like this. Sanction happened in the UK. If you are dealing or doing any business from the UK or the US with the Russian clients or Russian entities, you're not allowed to do this. So you need another place. You can do the business from Turkey, you can do business from Dubai, you can do it from Mauritius, you can do the business that still have the understanding between doing business from the west to the east with a less regulation. You will not be able to do it from the UK. So what is happening now? I was facing 20 years ago, but with a different perspective. And I've seen that it is like a cycle. Now the world is getting into more focusing into regional businesses or more local businesses. We don't see the benefit that people can move borders. In the same time, there are a lot of people who are actually they have their income 100% in line. It's not about remote work. I mean, when you get a job, you get paid, you do it remotely, that's remote work. But there is actually another business that many of the online entrepreneurs or influencers, I receive my 100. I can do my business anywhere. I can receive my money anywhere. It doesn't matter where, and I can actually base myself anywhere. So that's a totally different challenges that need to be addressed with a different mindset.
I'm curious too, and sorry, just to circle back on the Egypt piece. What kind of tax situation were you escaping in Egypt, or what is the current tax situation if you're a business owner and a citizen in Egypt from a corporate and personal income tax perspective? I just have no idea.
At this time, I mean, the Egyptian system based on the French system on the tax, it was 40%. That's the corporate tax and the income tax, but it was not actually enforced. I mean, the bank system was very relaxed. They was not 100% regulated into. They have to ask about each transaction in each way, but the main pain that was pushing, especially myself and other entrepreneurs at this stage, was regulation. I mean, there was no regulation suit into people who was doing international business or online business. To do an online business, you have to get approved from a different, you can say, departments. They have to do like a security background check on top of you, so you can just get an approval to operate a technical business or an online business. What I was doing, I need a license to operate in the country. So actually, that's why I decided to see what is other opportunities in other countries. I mean, I was always even I have roots. My family have roots from other countries, so I was growing up understanding there's a lot of. I mean, the world is not onto just one place or one country, one city, one family. The world is more connected as you never imagine. I mean, people now do this. They go and check their heritage and see how much genes and I don't remember the name, but there's like a couple of services you can give them a sample of your blood, and they go into your history and see how you have family and relatives all around the world. Actually, I was growing up understanding that I have family from the Middle East, from Africa, from Europe. That's why that the first thing that people tell me, you don't look like Egyptians, you are mixed. So I'm mixed myself and have different roots. And this idea was coming into that actually human beings are the same, whatever they are. You can born in Africa or Asia or US, but actually you are the same. We are connected by as humans. We are, if you dig deep and look into humans as they are the same. They can have different faces or different I call them as spices. They have different flavors, but if you just get into they are the same. They have the same problems, they have the same fears, the same ambitions, everything. So getting into other countries and discovering other you can say cultures and then businesses, I understand that we have the same problems, but some places as much more advanced, they solve the problem and they are welcoming that kind of different businesses, and some places still develop. If you go into now to Egypt, they are much more advanced. Even there's many African countries, they have much more, you can say, it's not just about mobile penetration. They have the fintech, you can do everything. They have a much more advanced banking system compared to the US. US is still it's still lagging on a lot of regulations and problems. I mean, but when the mobile penetration happened in many African countries, especially in Kenya or Nigeria, they use the mobile as their everything day. I mean, because they don't have anything before the mobile, so mobile was a changing opportunity. So you can go into places that you never think, and they will have much more advanced, sophisticated services if you compare to high gross, or you can say high advanced countries like the US or Canada, or and people never think about this. I mean, it, I mean, being in one place. I mean, the world is have a lot of opportunities, have a lot of things to learn from, and think. I mean, I'm here. This is the best place I'll be. This idea is very, it's getting out of control. I mean, we are the best because we are based in this place, or we're coming from the country. I don't believe in this, or we're coming from this region or anything. It's not just about old fashioned, but nowadays what I've seen now, that people are more protective. They try to see we are better than you, because we have something that you don't have. But actually, I am, you are different from me, and I'm different from you, and what I have is not what you have. But actually, if we come together, we'll be better together. That's my idea.
Hmm. No, I think it's a great idea, and your point about Africa is interesting, right? Because I think they got to skip the traditional banking system. They went right to electronic payments, right, and mobile
Fintech,
payments and all
yes,
that type. Yeah,
yes.
fintech. So yeah, I think you're spot on. I was in South Africa last year, and it was they, every everybody had the mobile app and all that, and WhatsApp and everything. So I want to. Can we unpack Mauritius? So you incorporated in Mauritius. Can you maybe outline at a very high level what that meant for you and what that means for other people that may be interested in it from a tax and regulation perspective? Why is it so beneficial, and why did you choose Mauritius specifically?
Mauritius have a very, I mean, they have special laws for international companies that allow non-Mauritian citizens to come to incorporate business, and they will favor them with a low tax, and they will allow to keep the money outside of Mauritius. The first benefit that they go, they're less regulation. If you would like to incorporate the company, it's a couple of days. If you'd like to do any changes, add partners, remove partners, different citizens, different regulations to keep the money in the country, outside the country, open bank accounts, everything that you actually will be able to do in your home country, but you will benefit from being an international tax, you can say, jurisdiction. Mauritius is a small island between Africa and, you can say, it's very near to, you can say, it's Madagascar. It's like, this is Africa and this is Madagascar. Mauritius on the other side here. It's 7 hours flight from Dubai, and almost 6 hours from Kenya, Nairobi. So it's in the middle in the ocean, but it's very well connected, and all the countries speak English and French very well. It's not a small, tiny island. The population of the country is around 2 million, plus or minus, something like this. And they are not tiny island like in the Caribbean. It's not like the Cayman Island, they have 100,000 inhabitants, and that's it. It's not like Isle of Man, less than 100K plus. It's not like the famous. It's not like Hong Kong as a small place that very well regulated inside China. It's more. I call it's the gateway between Africa and the Middle East and Europe. They have the rules and regulation like the UK. Everything is based on the UK system, but it's much more flexible and easy to be done. It's not the cheapest option for anyone who would like to base themselves there. They need at least, my advice, to have at least 250K business that running on a yearly basis, so you can justify the cost there. But it's very protective if you would like to set up a holding company. If you'd like to keep your company in the US or Canada or the UK and do business and move some of your operation to other low cost country, that would be Mauritius. You can create a holding company, and this holding company will own any assets or any other companies that you already operate. So that would be another layer of protection, and you will be able to get all the profits outside your home country to Mauritius. So there's a lot of the legal setup in Mauritius is exactly similar to other very famous places like the Cayman Island or Jersey or you can say Delaware, but the cost is less, and it's the kind of businesses that you can do is much more, and it's more protective because they are independent, they are neutral, they are not following. They are actually in Africa, but are not following. In case of any problems happen more in the world, as we see, you'll be able to. You need a more neutral place. Neutral place that's they are not following the east or the west. It's like they are. It's like Switzerland. It's like a place where you actually can do business, for example, with Russia and the US at the same time, and you don't have any problems. That's what I call it. Yeah.
So, can you provide specifics on the tax perspective for Mauritius? So, like, if you incorporate in Mauritius, what are you looking at from a corporate tax perspective? And then, I just don't understand how it works. Are you also facing personal income tax, or would that only be if you're a citizen of Mauritius?
When you register a corporate company or a company in a country, you are not liable for income tax unless you are living there and being tax resident. I mean, when you have the company and this is yourself, you are now, for example, in the US, you pay income tax and you pay corporate tax. If you move your company to another place here, like Mauritius, stay here, this company will, I mean, you will be only paying corporate tax on the company. If you would like to keep the money in the company, you can skip the income tax as long as you're not getting the money back into your home country. There's a lot of legal ways that you can use it. Okay. Income tax is the money that you pay on the income that you received as a salary or the dividends from your company or from any source. So I received 100K. I live in California. I have to pay X amount of as income tax. Okay. But if my company is another place, whatever it's in Mauritius, the actual rate in Mauritius is 15%. That's the normal rate. But when you incorporate an international business, this rate goes into as low as 3%, and it could be at the 0% with a certain implications. You need to apply for something. I say I'm doing an international business. I'm not using any resources in Mauritius, and this business will be 100% offshore. All the directors, the employees, the sources, the money is coming out of Mauritius. I'm just using Mauritius as a base for my business, but actually I'm not doing anything. They give you a special tax rate, and you lower the tax rate from 15, could be a 3 or 0, depending on your tax structure. That's the standard. That's how the law is. That's how they are attracting international businesses. That's written in the law. Okay. If you would like to be reside there, if you would like to put yourself and live actually in the country as a resident, you can pay the 15% of the income tax. But this is not the best option for you. When I based myself in Mauritius, was an alternative. I actually didn't live there all the time. I got the residency to get it have a benefit, but I didn't call myself tax resident. There is a difference between resident in the country and the tax residency. Tax residency, that's mean that you're obliged to pay income tax in this country or this location. You could be a resident in a place, but you're not obliged to pay the income tax. And you could be obliged to pay a tax resident in the country, but you're actually not living in it. So you have to choose the best scenario for your situation.
And then, so can you, what would be the best scenario? So I think I understand you can basically, if you have an international business in Mauritius, you can get your corporate income tax basically to 0, 3%, like you
Yeah.
said.
Yes.
And then how does
Yes.
it work for you if you're willing to share from a personal income tax perspective, right? You're living all around the world, Miami, UK, Dubai, different times of the year. So how does it work from a personal income tax for you? Is there a specific location where you're a resident and therefore has the lowest personal income tax when you want to pull money from your company?
I myself, I'm a resident and tax residency in Dubai. That's my residency. Okay,
And can
that's
you,
where.
yeah, yeah, you're probably going into it,
Yeah,
but can you explain why? I know that Dubai obviously is very popular for entrepreneurs,
it's
digital nomads.
it's not just about entrepreneurs. It's like it's the best place to base yourself if you are. You can say it doesn't matter your background or citizenship or residency. It's the best place to base yourself. to pay as low taxes as possible. It's not 0%. The tax income is zero. Okay, but there's other things you need to pay to be resident in Dubai. I mean, Dubai doesn't tax you as a personal, but they have services that you need to pay on a yearly basis to keep yourself registered in the country itself. That's the thing.
And is that a percentage base, or is that just a flat
No,
fee?
no, it's a flat fee. It's a flat fee, and it's flat fee. You don't have to pay if you are not renewing your residency. The idea of Dubai, I mean, I can give like a brief introduction about it. Dubai is the second largest city in United Arab Emirates. United Arab Emirates is like a federal state with the different states. One of them is Dubai. The capital is Abu Dhabi. It's not as famous as Dubai, but Dubai is famous because you can say it's the entertainment city. It's very famous with Burj Khalifa. It have the lore. It have many things which is very very famous for it. Okay, they have set up the country almost 50 years ago when they started incorporating the business company itself, that anyone can reside themselves there and pay zero tax. We're not taking any money from you as income. Whatever money you are making, it's zero. Okay? How the country is, how they are funding themselves. They funding themselves something called services. To get a residency there, you need a card. I have the card. I can show it to you later. But you have the card. This card gives you resident access to the country. To renew the card, you have to pay fees, depending on how structured you have. It could be as low as 10K per year, and it goes up to 50 or 100, depending on how complex is your setup. If you are employed in a business, the business is pay the fees on your behalf. Okay, that's how Dubai is. There's no tax, but there's services. You have to pay services yearly upfront. It's before you start we get you the card. You have to pay, for example, the minimum 10K upfront to be resident there, to be consider yourself as a residency. That's my setup, and this is one of the that I can advise anyone to do it as long as he justify the cost. There's pros and cons to Dubai. I mean.
Mhm. And then I'm curious too, because you say you live in Miami. I think you're in London right now. I would imagine if you're spending time in these other countries, they want to come for their share as well. Or maybe you can speak to the U.S. specifically, since I'm in the U.S. How do you avoid the U.S. coming after you and saying, actually, it seems like you spend most of your time here and not in Dubai, and so therefore the U.S. income tax laws apply to you. So can you maybe speak to that a bit?
Yes, I mean, for any US citizens or US resident, there's two ways. If you have a green card or American passport, there's a way which will talk second. And for anyone else, I don't have an American green card or American passport. Okay, I have something called E2 visa. I'm British citizen, so I can get something called E2. It's a visa. It's not a residency that allow me to access and do business in the US. And as long as I'm not spending 90 days plus, I'm not eligible to pay US taxes on the other income. Okay, so I can have a base. You can have a condo, you can have a house, you can have whatever anywhere in the US. You pay the property tax, but in Miami it's different. You can have a condo. Okay, and I spend less than 90 days in the US using my E2. It's a called E2 treaty visa. That's a treaty between the US and the UK. There are other countries also that allow them to do business and travel, but I'm not paying an income tax in Miami or Florida or the US because I spend the less 90 days. I don't have a green card. I can switch my E2 to green card very easily, but this is what put me into being as an American citizen. I have to pay taxes as worldwide income, which is something I will never do. That's for the people who are not US or American green card holders. For anyone else who is American or green card holders, you have to pay the US on global income. Whatever you are based, whatever if you're based in the UK, you still have to pay taxes to the US. There's a treaty between the UK and the US, but you still obliged to do a tax return. The only way, the first and easiest way you can do it, there's something called foreign income inclusion, where you say, I'm not living in the US anymore. For example, I live in the UK or Dubai or uh, Thailand or Bali, okay, and I have the proof that I'm not visiting the US anymore, even a couple of days. There's certain requirements how many days you can spend in the country, but actually my total residence is now outside the US. Even if I still have some businesses or entities or properties in the US, and I'll be able to claim up to 115K per year, okay, tax free. That's the easiest way. There's another step. If you're married to a non-American partner, there's another 115K. Okay, so you and your partner, okay, you can claim as at least you can say 200-ish plus. That's just being outside the US, and you are you and your foreign partner. It have to be foreign. It doesn't have if she have or he have a green card, the rule doesn't apply. That's the easiest way.
Hmm.
Okay. The most hard way is to say, okay, I will re-announce my U.S. citizenship. I give you back my passport, and I'm not American anymore. But you have, before you doing this step, you have to need another passport to say, okay, that's the only way you can pay zero taxes of the American legal system. Say, I'm getting back your passport. I'm not obliged to pay any taxes. I have a new passport or new citizen. There's different ways you can get this. And then I'm getting out of the US tax system, but you can still hold assets or businesses or travel back to the US with a new passport. There is rules and regulation about it. But this is the only way that this is the different scenarios as American citizens. American citizens have the special scenario different from anywhere else. Canadians, British, Europeans, whatever your background or how much taxes you can pay actually 0% if you have the preferable setup. But Americans will not be able to pay 0% unless they are re-announce the citizenship.
And so, if I'm understanding correctly, even if you are residing in Thailand for the majority of the year, but you're a U.S. citizen, you make money abroad or internationally, globally, you still are the personal income tax laws in the United States still follow you. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, yes. You can claim the foreign inclusion that we
Yeah.
mentioned, but more than this, you have to pay. For example, if you're making 500 per year, you can say, okay, 100, 1 and 1500 is tax free, and the other less of the 500 you have to pay in taxes as U.S. Resident. That's the difference.
And so, again, just using the example I just used, if you're living in Thailand, you'd also be subject to Thailand's personal income tax laws if you were residing there the majority of the year. Is that correct?
I mean, not 100%. I mean, each country have their own rules and regulation how they tax non-citizens. There's three. You can say there's three scenarios. Some countries, which is the easiest way, they don't care. If you're coming into a visit visa or you're not doing anything in the country, you don't have any business there, they will not ask any questions. Actually, they don't care. Whatever the rules and regulation, but let's see the thing on the ground, they don't care. Other countries, they say you have to register yourself there, you have to pay like registration fees, or you need to get something called a permit moving from there's different level of residency. You can be in a visitor visa. Visitor visa is just like you go to the country to get your stamp, you stay in the visa for a couple of months in the country, and then you move back and you keep doing this visa run. Using this, you will not be allowed, you will not be obliged to pay anything. But it's actually you're not getting any benefits of the country. Some countries will not allow you to open a bank account if you're doing this visa run. To stay in the country for long term, you need something called resident visa. The resident visa that allow you to stay for at least 12 months and will have responsibilities and benefits. One of the benefits that you can actually operate in the country. You can rent long term. You can go to any. You're not. I mean, when you keep traveling, if you're using Airbnb, it's very expensive. But when you get a resident visa in a country, that open you all the benefits as a citizen of the country. You'll be able to get a bank account. You'll be able to get all the utilities and rent like locals. You'll be able to use the local currency instead of using your home bank account for paying all the fees. So there's a lot of benefits that you get. Some of these countries will say, okay, you need to register yourself at a tax there, and we will not charge you any money on the income that you make outside the country. For example, Thailand. Any money that you keep outside Thailand will not be taxed. If you bring 100K into Thailand, that's where you have to pay 10%, 15%, 20%, depending on the rates and rules and regulation in each country. That's the other way. Okay, and there's other countries will say, okay, we will not. We as long as you are temporary resident, I mean, you're going back and forth. We can open bank accounts. You can do business. We can provide you with a less rate compared to other citizens, as long as you are not planning to be a citizen. If you're planning to be a citizen, you have to pay an income and all the money that you paying in the country. Okay.
Okay.
That's a third complaint. But it's depending if you are planning to stay in the country long term or short term. If you're staying in Thailand and say, I mean, there's many people go and travel back and forth into Thailand, but actually they do not have any roots there. They're not planning to have a family. They're not buying a property. They just use it as a digital nomad spot to do the business, enjoy the lifestyle, cheap life, and then out. But if you're planning to, okay, I love Thailand so much. I would like to buy a condo. I would like to be long-term residents. I find a partner that I would like to be having a family, whatever the family that you will have. This is long-term thinking. If you're planning to do anything long-term in a country, things will be different. You will be eligible. You have to get into the tax system, because in order to buy property, you have to get a tax ID. Tax ID, man, that's mean that you have a file with your name and a number on the tax authorities. That's where your communication or it's like having the social security number. If you don't have a social security number in the US, you cannot be able to do anything. You'll not be able to get a mobile phone or a contract. Okay, it's the same thing. If you're having a tax ID in the country, that's where your tax affairs start with the country. Whatever this country is looking to tax you into your income, or just would like to tax you on the things you do in the country. If you buy property and there's a tax property, you have to pay. If you are paying, if you're renting, and you have to report the renting to the authorities, and they take a percentage of the rent. That's not income tax, by the way. That's tax on a business operation. If you open a resort or anything local, you have to pay local taxes. This is completely different from you'll be taxed on your whole income or the money that you bring in. There is paying taxes. It's not, I call taxes as a contract between you and the government or the country that you reside in. You give me the benefits, I give you the taxes. I get the benefits outside the taxes I pay. The problem we see now in the West, there's many, you can say the Gen Z, whatever they are, up and down, and they fed up. They pay a lot of taxes. It could be up to sometimes 50%, and they are not getting any benefits out of it. There's no medical care. The education is getting back worse. You can get all the education online. There's no protection whatsoever if you are in other countries. So the benefits you used to get 20 years ago, they are getting down and down and down. Business operation, I don't have to do business in the US. I can do business in any other country that have the same system in the US, and I will pay less taxes. So why am I still paying high taxes and you are not giving me back my benefits or my advantages that I pay? It's like a contract. That's how I see taxes. If you're not getting new benefits, say sorry, bye bye. I can be myself in anywhere. The idea that mostly we have brought up, especially in the West, that if you are not paying taxes, you are a bad citizen. You are trying to you try to deceive the government of not paying your obligations. It's not like this way. Taxes for benefits. If you're not getting me benefits, I'm not paying your taxes. If I'm not residing there, why I have to pay money back to you if I'm not getting anything from you as a return? This is how humans are operate from long ago. So taxes is a way, two-way. It's not one way. It's not just you are a citizen of the country that you have to pay me. Actually, you have now the tools and services that you can be citizen of anywhere. You can buy passports, you can get residency. There's many scenarios that you can. You don't have to pledge to the country that. And this is not about being, because there's also a huge thing happen mostly online about being patriotic and paying taxes. It's totally different. I mean, I love the US. I would like to be an American citizen as long as I'm not paying taxes. Okay. So loving a place, okay, you can love the place. You can. This is the place I would like to be. I love the UK. The UK is an amazing place. If you just get out the weather and food, okay. Everything else is amazing. Okay, the history, the country, the people. It's fantastic place. But I don't want to be there because they tax me too much. But I'm considering myself as a very good, you can say, British. I love the British values. I love being Egyptian. I have other passports and other citizens. So I love being patriotic into the country. It's a feeling that you belong somewhere. But this feeling, it doesn't have to taking money from my pocket and paying to say, this is the way I prove I'm paying back. No, if I'm not getting the benefits, I don't have to pay it. As easy as that.
Hmm. Can we pivot to maybe sticking with the US? Like, if someone doesn't want to give up their US citizenship and they're building a business in the United States, what is the best strategy to lower taxes? I would assume you would incorporate in somewhere like the Cayman Islands, which would eliminate your corporate, or maybe you can get into the specifics, greatly reduce your corporate income tax. But then what about the personal income tax, right? As a US citizen, it sounds like you can't get away from that. So what is the strategy to lower taxes as low as possible as an American citizen if you're a business owner?
I can give two scenarios. I mean, one of the scenarios I mentioned is about Cayman Island. If you decided today to move out of the US totally and move to the Cayman Island and set up your business and your residence there, the company itself that you set up will pay zero corporate tax. There's other services that you need to pay, or you can say fees. There's no tax in the Cayman Island, but there's other service. For yourself, you can claim the foreign inclusion that we mentioned. It's 115K, and that's the easiest way you can do it. Okay, if you will take 115K tax free to live in the Cayman Island. Okay, that's the easiest thing. There's another way. It could be Dubai, because Cayman Island is more expensive than Dubai. The minimum setup you need to set up yourself in the Cayman Island, at least 25K without adding services. There's just the minimum base. For Dubai, you can start as 10K. So it's depending on how much money you're making. If you would like to stay in the US time zone, Cayman Islands are the best. I've been there. I spent more than a couple of months. I've seen all the operation there, them on the ground myself, and it's one of the fantastic places. It's a mix between the UK and the US, but based in the Caribbean. The weather is amazing all the time. The food is good. People are very friendly. So it's actually a place that you can, and it's very well connected. Just 1 hour from Miami, one-ish hour between Georgetown and Miami. So it's very well connected to the US. But if you would like, but the setup there and the cost of living is extremely high. To rent a proper place, at least 4K per a very small place per month. Dubai on the other side, it's the other side of the world. The setup is starting from 10K, the proper setup, because you will find a lot of people who can say, I will set up there for 2K, for 3K. This is mostly scam. They get you the papers and they run away. But to have a proper setup that you can use for yourself or business starting from 10K, don't pay the less 10K. And then you would be able to say, I'm paying zero income tax in Dubai, and I can claim my foreign inclusion. There is a lot of opportunities and entrepreneurs. It's very well connected city. Your mindset will totally change it. Dubai is a mix between Istanbul, Miami, and London. It have the some of the East mentality like Istanbul, and it's very business well oriented like New York, and it's very well connected like London. So it's a global city. It have pros and cons like any other place, but if you are doing an international business and you would like to be in place that's very well connected and have a similar mindset, because there's many entrepreneurs that fled their countries and go to Dubai and they stay there. You see the luxurious photos and everything, but it's not as glamorous all the day. When you live in a place, you are not tourist anymore. You're not an Instagrammer anymore. When you leave a place, You're like everyone else. You go there, you have a job, whatever it's remotely. You go there, you have the bank meetings. You go. Yeah, I mean, it's the hustle and bustle. It's like, I mean, if you're visiting New York or living in New York, it's totally different. So Dubai, don't look as a visitor. Just look into that. I'm living there. There's a lot of benefits that you can get out of this. So Cayman Islands 25K, Dubai is 10K for any American citizen, and they will be able to claim 115K USD as a foreign inclusion. There's others way they can benefit to lower their taxes, but it's depending on case by case. If you have it doesn't have to be a foreign partner, but if you have a partner, he's not U.S. citizen, you can get. I mean, you can register the company as his name, and you can get all the money into the company, and you'll be employee in the business. So there's different ways to benefit
Sorry, broke up a little there, but I think you're back. But no, that's helpful. Can we get into more like, okay, so I get it that there's a foreign income uh,
inclusion.
inclusion, or if I'm saying that correctly. But what if you're making millions of dollars as a United States citizen? I mean, are you just out of luck and you want to take dividends from your company? I mean, there's no way of escaping personal income tax. I think the other strategy, obviously, right, is to run as much of the justified expenses through the business as possible to lower the profit that you are actually taking, but you're benefiting by running expenses through the business. I mean, what do you do? I mean, are you just it's just inevitable to pay some tax if you're really making a good amount of money as a United States citizen, even if you incorporate in the Cayman Islands, for example?
If you're making more than half a million per year, there's different scenarios that you can use. One of them is getting another citizenship. You don't have to re-announce your US at the beginning. I mean, my advice for anyone who's thinking about this, take it step by step. You don't have to go full in. Just think about it as steps. My aim is to pay zero taxes. Okay. What are the ways is available? You'll not be able to achieve this at once. You can do it step by step. The first step that we talked about is getting a residency, for example, in Dubai. That's the first thing. And then once you get the residency company set up and you move some of the money from the US to Dubai, think about getting a second passport. Second passport will allow you to think freely. You get a document from a government. You can do it as fast as a couple of months through investment in the Caribbean. You can get St. Lucia, Dominica, St. Kitts and Nevis. They starting from 100K. That's like a donation. You can get the passport. And once you have the passport in your hand, you will switch your income, or you can switch your citizenship in the Dubai application from American citizen to St. Lucia, for example. That's where your mindset will be totally changed. Okay, I can do exactly the same I do from my St. Lucia passport as US passport. It's the same. This is huge country. You can do this is a small tiny island, but actually in front of the law of government, they are the same. It's a passport allow you to travel internationally. It's the same, nothing else. So if you can afford the 100K donation and you get the passport, this where your mind will see, okay, what are do I need to still keep my US passport or I can get rid of it? Do I still have family there? Do I have investment? Can I get access? Like I mean, if you get, there is another passport called Grenada. Grenada is a Caribbean island. Also, get you the E2 visa treaty that I use as a British citizen. So if you re-announce you're a citizen and you get the other Grenada passport, the passport in Grenada, and then you can apply for the E2 that gives you full access to the US without paying taxes. That's another strategy. If you there's others where you don't have to pay the 100K donation. If you have a family roots from Germany, from UK, from Ireland, from Italy, from Spain, there is a lot of American who have roots in Europe. They can dig up in these roots and get something called citizenship by descent. It's a lengthy process. It's not cheap. It's not easy. But if you know you have a grandfather, grandmother, or grandfather from other country outside the US, and you still have some of the documents to prove this, you can go through that and claim another passport in the EU. That's you get access to the EU. You can pay less taxes, and you can say, okay, I don't need my US passport. If you would like to keep your US passport, there is a more complex way. You can set up a trust. It's not for everyone. As long as you have the money to justify, to keep, you can move your assets from your own name to a trust or offshore trust or another country. There's a lot of benefits in this, but it's like if you're making, then that's you have to justify the cost, which is mentioned is at least making half a million per year US dollar. You pay a lot of taxes. If you can use these taxes to invest in other, you can say offshore structure that will benefit you on the short term and long term. But don't say, okay, it will take me 6 months or 3 months to go 100% tax free. No, that will never happen. Your mind have to accept the new challenges and opportunities, and what can I do? Because you're stuck in one place for long term, even if you travel globally and see other cities and cultures and things, but you see this is the best place, that there's nothing else in the world. You, your mind will take at least 3 to 6 months to accept. I mean, the world is the same. They have pros and cons everywhere. If I'm not benefiting from my place, where I can see other places. That's the simplest way.
Yeah, I can see how it's incredibly complex, and there's just so many options, and it's highly personal. One thing that comes to mind, I mean, if you do go down a lot of these paths and you incorporate in Dubai, or you're a resident of Dubai or the Cayman Islands, isn't there always a risk that the environment changes and that place is no longer as friendly as it was in the past? I mean, is that something you ever consider? Um, because it just seems like it would be such a pain to go through all that to get it all set up, and then Dubai says, "Oh, actually, we need some more revenue as a government, and therefore we're imposing this corporate tax or personal income tax." I don't. Do you ever think about that, or do you foresee that happening anytime in the near future?
I mean, there's a lot of risk you have to take into consideration, because rules and regulation keep changing all the time. I can give you like a simple scenario. To get Turkish citizenship, 3 years ago, it was 1 million. You have to invest 1 million US dollar to get a Turkish citizenship. Now it was reduced to 200. Okay. And now it's 400, and they think into getting up to 600. Okay, so why they changing the rules? I mean, if you're following the regulations about residency and citizenship and other words, the Portugal started to change also the rate for golden visa from 250 to 500. So it's, I mean, countries change and make it more harder to get into when there's a lot of inquiries or people moving into to the country. There's a lot of people who would like to be Turkish, with a lot of people who move to Portugal, and the government themselves. I mean, locals are fed up because when foreign people move to into country, especially if the country is low cost, like in Turkey and Portugal, everything, there's a huge inflation because foreign come with US dollar, they rent a lot of apartments, they buy apartments, they invest in the businesses, they create like a hyperinflation into the country. And locals who are making money and they used to make less money, they feel instant poor. They say, I used to live in the place, there was not a lot of foreigners, so they push into the government. The government try to make the local happy. They make more regulations, and it's like a cycle. And there's a lot of foreigners leave the country, and the new government come. We are desperate for newcomers, so they lower the regulations, and it's like a cycle. It's happening all the time. I mean, it used to be very easy 20 years ago to travel to Cayman Island with your passport. Just open a bank account, get a company in a couple of days, get residency there, buy a house, and that's it. Now, just open a bank account, you need at least 10 documents. I can show you the list. It's very complicated. I mean, countries are trying to, as long as they are more popular, they will make it more restrictive to get into. So rules and regulations and tax rates keep changing all the time. My idea is that when you get into the place, for example, Dubai keep changing. They are introducing 9% corporate tax, and not all the companies, but still say we are 0% of the income tax. So even Dubai, which is what used to be 100%, they still having rules and regulation keep changing. The idea is that you are living in the US. The rules in the US keep changing, but you are not noticing it. But because you get your familiar into it, because you are saying, this is what happened to me and everyone else in the US. Other countries have the same. The rules keep changing. If you have the investment or the opportunity to get something that's very attractive now, get it. Because 6 months to 12 months, you'll not be able to get it. It could be changed, the prices could go up, or you are not eligible anymore to get this. So the more you get as soon as possible, that would benefit you. But here's the thing. If you get a passport from a country or you get a residency or open a country, you are starting your journey into a new destination. And this journey, you will have a lot of benefits and a lot of disadvantage. If you're still getting a lot of benefits, keep into the country. If you're getting a lot of disadvantage, you say, okay, should I go to other place or I still recoup my investment? Because it's like pros and cons. But you'll not be able to get into this mindset unless you say, I'm getting out of the US. Because US, I mean, yesterday the podcast about the US, and it's the only country in the world that you can live actually 12 months. You can live in the summer, in the winter in Miami, and you can spend the winter in New York or California, whatever. So there's no other country have the same ecosystem like the US. So if you're trying to compare to US in other place, there's none, because it's actually 50 plus countries in one federal state. So but when you get out of it's very protective, it's very easy, same rules and regulation, common language. That's why if you try to go anywhere, even in Canada, if you're just passing the border, it's totally different mindset. They have a different mindset. The business there are more restrictive. There's more taxes. They are not as business friendly as the US. But you will get into a mindset there's more into the world than the US, and you have to balance your benefits. It's more, I'm getting more or I'm getting less. I know a lot of people who've been into that for 20 years and say, okay, I'm fed up now, I would like to leave. In the same day they leave, there's a lot of people who are coming at the same time. So it will keep doing like this, not just Dubai or the United Arab Emirates. All the countries are doing the same. As long as you are taking and seeing the you're building your journey, you're creating your story. You'll not be able to, you can say, copy from. It's not like copy trading. There's Mr. X who's doing X and Y and Z. I'll copy exactly the same like him and do. Your story will be different. I know people who just, for example, they invest a lot of money and effort, and they would like to set up themselves in Singapore. And in the first day of the visit, they fed up. I don't want to live in this country anymore. I would like to go away. Even it's amazing place, it's very, but they don't like it. It's I know people who went to Dubai. I don't like it. It's too much for me. There's a lot of hassle. They call it plastic city. It's a personal taste. So you are creating your own story, but you need to accept that your mind will be changing. Your mindset will take some time until you see the benefits from a different place.
Hmm. No, I think that's kind of a great way to wrap it up a bit. But all this is super interesting to me, right? And I think you probably deal with this all the time where people don't even realize the opportunities and the possibilities they have for themselves, especially if they're a business owner or in the age of digital nomad and remote work and work from anywhere. So I'm sure you're very busy, but maybe you could just end and close where people can find you and maybe provide some specific information on the type of people you work with, right? I think it's a more specific type. It's not anybody that wants to just pick up and move to Dubai or work in Thailand, right? You have a specific clientele. So maybe you could speak to that a bit just to close out.
Yeah, normally you can Google my brand name. I call myself Global Expat. If you can type Mo Global Expat, that's one way to reach me. You'll find me on LinkedIn, Instagram. I'm everywhere on YouTube also. That's one thing. Normally, I work with clients who are mostly investors and entrepreneurs who are making at least 100K, and they would like to see their options about lowering their taxes or getting residency on citizenship in another country. I'm not serving you can say the digital nomads who would like to keep traveling from different countries who just have a remote job, they will not be able to justify the cost. But I'm happy to advise them. I have a lot of communities and members who just go and ask simple questions. I'm happy to answer any question whatsoever. But to be my client and work and long term, you can say benefit plan, you have to meet to make at least 100K to justify the cost.
All right, Mo, thank you. Like I said, I enjoyed it. And I know we talked about this off before we were recording, but I'd be happy to bring you back on to dive deeper into this, right? Because there's so much you could talk about. So again, thanks for the time and best of luck.
It's my pleasure, Con. Pleasure. Take care.